Okay, hey everyone, to another episode of On the Wrist from Off the Cuff. To have a really cool kind of brand showcase for you guys from the brand Maen. This brand was founded back in 2017, and the name Maen is essentially the old Dutch spelling of the word moon, which is kind of the ultimate symbol of time. They have a pretty simple vision. They want to offer the best quality for reasonable prices, and they don't really dress it up any more than that. And I think that's a great market and a great sales pitch. They've been on my radar for quite some time, but thankfully, either another brand owner or a viewer kind of put me on their radar on my channel, so they reached out to see if I would like to kind of get hands-on. They had quite a few different models that were very interesting, and they were kind enough to send in all three of these models for me to share with you guys. Of course, these are just review loaners. They're not brand new, so you're gonna see some scuffs here and there. But I think they hold up really well, and in terms of their design, they're fantastic. I love kind of their blend of old and new, while still being different enough to really feel like they, again, are bringing something new, not just bringing contemporary designs. So I think that's great. Starting from the left to the right, you have the Hudson 38mm Mark IV with the jet black no date configuration. Then in the middle, you have the Manhattan 39 Ultra Thin. And then on the right-hand side, you have the Brooklyn 36. So with all that said, let's go ahead, zoom the camera out, get these pieces in hand, and take a closer look. Okay, guys, now three very distinctive looks, of course, and we'll go ahead and start with kind of what most brands start with, which is a really robust diver. So there's a reason why dive watches are so popular. They just kind of have become this everyday facet within the watch enthusiast zeitgeist, just because of how capable they are and how versatile they are, right? You have 007 making it okay to wear a dive watch in a full-on tuxedo, let alone, some business casual wear, right? And the crazy thing is you can even dress them down to some beach wear and water sports wear, right? You don't even have to have pockets, and you can have one of these on the wrist. And their design, the Hudson, has been very cool and been out for a while. This is its fourth iteration, and I have to say I'm very, very impressed about this piece in the metal. Like this, it's just nicer than it needs to be, honestly. This will retail for $675, and this is actually going to be restocked around mid-May of 2024, depending on when you're watching this. And I have to say, mid-May is gonna, I'm sure these are going to sell really well. I mean, one, it's the fourth iteration, so they've made incremental improvements, and two, they're a smaller brand, so when these restock, again, you kind of can't sleep on these. You have to take it quite seriously, because it's going to be hard to find something like this, just being in stock somewhere. A lot of these sell out, and there's a reason for it. The stuff you'll find in stock, honestly, is going to be way more kind of riding the homage, fine line, right? This definitely feels like very much its own thing. I like that it has a very, contemporary design aesthetic while still having some vintage aspects, right? Crownless, crown guardless, big crown setup. But I mean, other than that, other than the basic silhouette, everything else feels very, very modern, which I dig. And the size, right? So speaking of the size, 38mm in diameter, 12.2 millimeters thick, or should I say thin, and then 46.4 millimeters lug to lug. You got 120 click. Ooh. Yes. Rotating bezel, unidirectional with a ceramic insert. It's a nice, very nice action. And thanks to that matted ceramic there, I'm not going to have to wipe off any fingerprints, which is cool. So you have that 20mm lug width, domed sapphire, 30 atmospheres or 300 meters of water resistance, powered by a Sellita SW200, right? So really nice. I mean, honestly, at this price point, you would probably expect this to be, rocking Miyota 9000 series, which there's nothing wrong with that. But I mean, when you think about how thin this is, nicely thin, and then and the price point under $700 at $675, for me, having that Swiss made build quality and the Swiss movement is definitely a plus. So very, very cool. Now let's move into what's kind of very much in style right now, which is going to be the integrated bracelet watch, right? Definitely has a bit of that Genta design to it. The case looks almost like a Nautilus, but stretched a little bit. And I think that's a really fun play that they did there. So you're kind of combining maybe a little bit of Cartier with that, right? In terms of the shape. And then of course you have this dial, very nice, kind of a Geneva striping style, which is very, very cool. So this is the Manhattan 39 ultra thin, and it is so thin because of this movement. Manual ETA 7001 with an elaborate grade finish. So very, very cool. That's going to give you 42 hours of power reserve, 3 hertz sweep. And it doesn't really matter in that it's only a 3 hertz because there's no seconds hand on here. And that's how another way that they got it ultra thin, right? Flat sapphire with inner AR. 39 millimeters across, only 7.3 millimeters thick. That is just really, really nice. 47.7 millimeters lug to lug, which I think is very, very wearable. And yeah, you're even getting 10 atmospheres or 100 meters of water resistance, which is very, very nice. These are going to go for $1126, so just over $1,000. Also shipping around the end of May versus mid-May from the Hudson. And this is, of course, depending on when you're watching this is for the year of 2024. So very nice. All of these, actually, one thing to note in terms of their lume, these are all going to have C1, X1 super luminova. So nice high grade lume, and it's going to render completely white during daylight, which is nice. But then you guys will notice once we get to the lume shots that it's going to be nice and bright in terms of its luminous. So these are definitely very much in style right now, right? These integrated styles. And then also this beautiful, wow, fully articulated bracelet. The bracelets kind of across the board are all really beautiful, and all actually fully articulated, which is very, very nice. So very impressive. The build quality on these for the price points, I'm definitely very impressed. But let's move on to the Brooklyn 36. Now, also in stainless steel here. We'll get it to focus. It doesn't. There we go. Check it out. And a very cool kind of take in terms of having some subdials, but having some useful complications there. You're getting this in a 36 millimeter diameter, 12.8 millimeters thin, and then a 45.5 millimeter lug to lug, 20 millimeter lug width, box sapphire with inner AR. This one is going to have a little bit less water resistance at only 5 atmospheres or 50 meters. But, it's definitely on the dressier side. You can see it even says prototype on the back there. So pre-production. So, there could be some changes. Inside, though, one of the nice things is you're going to have a Miyota 9122. So you're going to have that nice 4 hertz sweep there with 28,800 vibrations per hour in terms of the beat rate. You're going to have a 40-hour power reserve, and this one will be shipping at the end of May. So we got mid-May, we have end of May, and then we also have another end of May of 2024. And this one is very, very cool. So this one definitely leans more into the vintage aesthetic with the sizing and the overall styling. But where it modernizes is by giving you a bit more of complication there, which I think is a really cool balance. And, something like this you would typically see without all the extra functionality, and it would cost probably still about the same, $765. So this one is going to be a little bit more expensive than the diver, thanks to additional complication, but it's going to be a little bit cheaper than the integrated sports bracelet. Well, I should say integrated sports watch, but this is very nice, and of course very traditional Jubilee. All of these are going to have screw link construction in terms of their bracelets. All the bracelets are going to be finished really, really well. But let's actually get these on the wrist and see how they wear. Okay guys, as you can see on my 7.5 inch wrist, this wears really, really well. I do have more of a round wrist, so it's not flat and super accommodating for any watch. But you can see, doesn't seem undersized, doesn't seem oversized, really nicely suited. And, you know, I think 38 millimeters is definitely on the smaller size for a dive watch. But for those of you with smaller wrists, I think you'll be really happy with this one. And for those of you with larger wrists like myself, I think it still totally works. It definitely has enough going on to where you're going to still get a nice visual impact from such a small piece. And sometimes, you know, those more sparse, smaller sized watches, unfortunately, might be a little bit too plain. And, you know, if you have a larger wrist, it can just feel undersized. I think here, at least you're getting enough visual weight to really carry this watch if you do have a larger wrist. But with that said, let's actually move on to the next piece. Okay, guys, wow, epically thin here. Check that out. That just, it's beautiful. I mean, look at the light play, look at the articulation, the additional beveling that just rides the case all the way down, beautifully integrated into the bracelet. Very, very nice. And of course, this dial is going to have quite a few different hues and shades and tints thanks to that textured dial. And although you know, of course, I'm somebody, especially if I'm going to have a mechanical piece on, I do like to have a, you know, a seconds hand there running, just kind of reminding me that the watch is alive. But when it comes to something where you're really going to be looking for ultimate thinness, I don't mind it at all. I think this looks really, really outstanding, guys. Look at the thinness there. That's just pretty immaculate. So let's actually go ahead and move on to the last piece now. Oh yeah, I'm digging that. I mean, yes, it's much smaller than I'm used to. I'm more of a 38 millimeter kind of watch guy myself, but I have to say this 36, thanks to that 20 millimeter lug width, really, really holds it together, right? It doesn't feel too undersized. Of course, I would, you know, for those of you with larger wrists who maybe might not be used to wearing smaller timepieces, I would recommend, you know, wearing stuff like this with longer sleeve shirts and jackets and those types of situations. I think it's a nice transition and much kind of easier in terms of adjusting to the size. But, you know, again, I think at the end of the day, you don't want to be detoured just by a number, you know, on a spec sheet. I think it's something you definitely have to try in the metal. And I will say, even though this dial has so much visual presence and it has so much going on in terms of multi-tones, finishes, and you know, the color play, the additional complications and everything, I think it's very clean, it's very smart, and yeah, I'm just really digging it. So let's actually go ahead, get it off the wrist, set up for some Lume shots, low light transition, and closing thoughts. Okay, let's go ahead and hit the lights here. Hey, check it out, guys. Really, really well done, I have to say. Very nice in terms of the Lume department. You're gonna get a little bit darker here. You guys can see still showing up really nice. I mean, especially considering really only one of them is a dive watch, in terms of, you know, where you would expect the Lume to be quite potent. I mean, that for a super slim everyday watch, that centerpiece is looking gorgeous. And of course, for a high complication kind of everyday piece, you know, this is, I think, a decent Lume. At least you have it, right? But one thing I always like to work in is a bit of a low light transition, because you're not always going to be out in the middle of a field enjoying direct sunlight. A lot of times you're going to find yourself coming in and out of buildings, walking underneath overhangs, or just hanging out underneath the shade of a tree. So it is nice to see what these colors, textures, and finishes render like in less than optimal lighting. Ooh, my gosh, there's a lot of play here, guys. Check that out. These look fantastic. Even though, I mean, some of them are a bit more on the monochromatic side, you're still going to get so much visual interest thanks to the finishing on the cases, the finishing on the bracelets. You're getting a lot of contrast. And even for, you can see on that Brooklyn 36 on the end, even with, you know, minimal Lume there, it's still quite legible. Check that out. Like, you can still read that time and you don't really need a lot of Lume. So I think that's really cool. And of course, you know, for watch enthusiasts, we do kind of get a kick out of potent Lume. It's just one of those things that, you know, we can kind of geek out about. So it is nice to find, you know, really potent lume there on the center side, because I really wasn't expecting that at all. But it's one of those things that's really great, because now even you guys can see that dial is going to pick up and play with light in so many ways. Having that big flat white portion on those indices, indexing the time there, it keeps it very, very legible, right? So you're going to get that nice contrast here. So these look really, whew, I can do this. I can do this all day. But I will spare you any more light play. If you guys want to go back, feel free to rewind it and watch it again. Maybe play some slow music over it. But we'll get into some closing thoughts, guys. On the wrist, all of these really excel in terms of compact wear profiles and well-articulated bracelets with a smooth finishing against the skin. Like, these don't only, you know, they are sharply finished, but they don't feel sharp to the touch, which I really can appreciate. Now, in terms of model variants, definitely check the site links down in the description for options and availability. Again, these are all currently, at least as the time of recording this, are out of stock, but they are coming back into stock soon, you know, within the spring here of and into the, I guess, spring / summer time frame of 2024. Now, for comparable models, I think Maen have really managed to curate a complete group of collections, which is rarely the case within microbrands. You know, normally brands can kind of stick to what they're good at, and I think it's cool that Maen stepped it up and, you know, have created really some versatile pieces here. So I'm impressed to see a brand with such a distinct identity fully fleshed out so early within their journey. I mean, founded back in 2017, and I feel like all of these watches really speak to the brand themselves, even though the watches are all completely different. I mean, even down to the bracelets, right? Even different bracelets, which is wild. That's, you know, not only are they giving you different cases, different styles, different bezel types, you know, different mission statements and different themes, but even down to the bracelet, which is amazing, because a lot of brands will, you know, they'll have kind of one good bracelet that they do, and they'll put that across every model. Here, you're going to have a bevy of really nice options, depending on your tastes. So for me, guys, the bottom line, these are you know, they did absolutely live up to the hype, and I think there is a bit of hype around them, and hopefully people are able to find this video and learn a little bit more. And I think these are even more impressive in the metal. So if you get a chance to see any of these, maybe at a local watch gathering or whatever, trade show, where they're featured, definitely take a chance and get out there, because I feel like even their stock photos and spec sheets, you know, don't really show you how good these actually are in the metal. So I think Maen are really a top brand to keep an eye on moving forward. And, you know, I don't say that lightly. These guys are cool. I'm really looking forward to seeing what they do next, just because of the level of quality. And of course, I think the versatile, you know, timely designs are really nice as well. But let me know what you guys think down in the comments below. If you like the video, please do like. And if you haven't already, please subscribe for more content just like this. Thanks, guys.